Hello everybody, welcome to Skish, and today we're back with Frieren Beyond Journey's End, Season 2, Episode 3. So with this episode specifically, it didn't really seem like a whole lot happened. We didn't get a lot of story, but we did get a lot of something else. You could consider this one like a filler episode, if that's what you want to call it. Even though there was not a lot of things going on, might be one of my favorite Frieren episodes of all time. And there's a specific scene that we're going to get to eventually. You're going to see why. And if you've seen the episode already, then you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So without further ado, let's get right into episode 3. So right off the bat, we get our party walking, and they're trying to find an onsen. They've been traveling for like a week, and they're tired, and they're hungry, and they want to relax. Frieren has been telling these stories of these onsen village where they can rest, where they can get a little R&R in. So it turns out that the village Frieren was talking about, doesn't exist anymore. Her being an elf, her perception of time is just kind of off. The village was actually disappeared like 30 years ago or something like that. So she thought it would be like right there, you know. Only a little bit of time passed, so I bet the village is still there. And it was already small enough, so I could see why it would probably dwindle. Just a small little village in the middle of nowhere. Of course, everybody's going to leave after 3 decades, right? So like I said, 30 years ago, the village was abandoned, but it was because the onsens dried up. So not only do they have this village that's abandoned now, but now they know for sure the onsen is dried up. So everything they were looking forward to after this week of traveling, tired feet, sore back, just wanting to relax in the hot onsen, they can no longer do because the onsen dried up 30 years ago. Just want to give another quick shout out to Frieren's face here. We get a lot of good Frieren content this episode, and we are in no short supply for this time. So with the onsen being dried up, of course they can't stay there for the onsen. I'm sure there's a place to stay, but what they really want to do is get in the onsen, so they can't do that anymore. So they kind of decide that, hey, let's just move on to the next town. Fern asks how far it is. Well, Frieren tells her it's about another week. So having to wait a whole nother week just to want to be clean and feel fresh again does not sound like the best thing in the world to these three right now. But the old man of the village does drop some wisdom. He said that his grandfather mentioned that there used to be a hot spring on this mountain. It was hard to get to, but if you could get to it, it was an onsen, and it was hidden, so it was probably still likely active. So we come to find out that this is the onsen in the Etwas Mountain, little hidden onsen that not a lot of people know about. So they're discussing whether to go or not, and Frieren and Fern don't really seem too adamant on the idea of traveling up a mountain to get what might be a hot spring that no one really knows if it's even there anymore. They have to go to find out. But Stark seems really adamant on going for some reason. Frieren knows what's up there. She's already been up there. We can pretty much already tell she's been up there. She already knew it was up there, and she had the name and everything, so we know they went up there previously. She tells Stark that let's go with a smile. Like, she has a good big grin on her face, and I like that because she knows kind of what's going to happen here. They're going to go up there, and she wants Stark and Fern to make those same memories that she previously had with her party. And again, throwing those flashbacks and those experiences that Frieren had with her party and bringing them to her current place now. So we kind of get like a collage of wandering through the woods and adventure to this Etwas Mountain onsen. It goes to show that how far this thing is. Like, it's not just around the bend or up the river. It's quite a ways out there. Like, when they say it's out of the way, it's really out of the way. I mean, we go over huge boulders. We cross through dense forest. They have to camp out at night. There's monsters that are defeated on the way. Like, this is not just an easy path to get to an onsen. This is an adventure in itself, and I think Frieren knew that the whole time, and Stark also knew that the whole time. And again, another just fantastic Frieren shot, just vibing. I love this show. So this is where we come to find out for sure that Frieren and her party have already traveled to this onsen. She mentions that Himmel was very adamant about going, that he was very adventurous and very let's go, and he was never satisfied unless he searched every single nook and cranny to find this onsen. And she knows specifically how brutal this path can be, and it only gets harder. Like, everything they've been through now was tough, but it just gets tougher. So they come to reach pretty much the end of the epic adventure to get to the onsen, and there seems to be a lizard at the top of this little castle. Not a dragon, but a 3-headed lizard. Also, I just want to point out how beautiful this shot is. I don't know if it's the green grass or like the little mountain here. I love the little baby castle that looks like a chess piece. Just a little baby one with some trees going through it. There's something about this scene that is just so perfect fantasy. Like, when you think of adventure. Like, this is the type of scene you would stumble across. The exact one that I would picture. So, being the party, the giant lizard decides to attack because it's defending its territory. So they now have to not only venture on this massive, massive adventure to find an onsen at the top of a mountain, but now they have to fight a giant lizard with 3 heads. And Frieren's plan is for Stark to run and be bait, while Fern and Frieren attack it, because apparently with this specific monster, you have to chop off all 3 heads at the exact same time in order to kill it. Otherwise, it will just regenerate its heads, and you're going to have to start from square one. So they want Stark to run, Frieren and Fern to attack it, and hopefully they can get it in the first couple tries, because otherwise it could probably take a while. So we've defeated the mysterious lizard, and now it is hopefully time for the onsen. This specific scene, I do want to point something out here, where Frieren specifically tells them good job. And like I mentioned last episode, it's important that she does that, and she knows it, just to make sure that her party knows that she values how hard they work, even if it doesn't seem like it all the time. Frieren is very mundane, she's very dry, not very emotional, but I'm going to change my opinion on that in just a couple minutes. Generally, she's not very emotional. She wants to show her party that she does care about them and appreciate their hard work. So it's important that she tells them how proud she is of them, and that when they do a good job, that she makes them know it. And here we are finally at the hidden hot spring of the Ewas Mountain. And I don't know what they were talking about, but that looks beautiful to me. I mean, you get the little river coming through here into the little pond, and we come to find out it's just a foot bath. You can't really soak in it, but I don't think it's really about the whole full body dip in this one. It's more so about the adventure along the way. And I mean, that is a very, again, just perfectly picturesque fantasy image. It looks amazing. Like, I would dip my feet there with my party, and I would have a great time doing it. We gotta get some epic feet shots of the squad. Got some Stark, got some Fern, got some Frieren. You know, we're getting it all in there. And this is where we come to find out why Stark was so adamant on coming here. It turns out that not only Frieren has technically been there before, but obviously we know Stark's master. He was also obviously in Frieren's party, so he told him all about this. The fact that he got to experience that with his friends, that beautiful view, that adventure to get there, even though it wasn't for the greatest onsen reward, it was for a great reward that you made a fantastic memory with the people you care about most. Stark wanted that same thing for his party. And Eisen mentions to Stark at dinner that he wouldn't trade those memories for anything in the world. And I think that perfectly encapsulates the series of Frieren as a whole, is making memories and cherishing bonds with people you care about most. You know, that's the most important thing in life. It's not always about the money. It's not always about the career. It's about the memories and the things you do with the people you care about the most. And then this scene here is beautiful in its own way. We get the 2 parties doing the same thing, making the same memories as their masters once were. It reminds me of that regular show meme. This is exactly what it reminded me of. This is like the first thing I thought of when I saw it, is the meme from regular show with Skips and everybody else. It puts you in the feels, man. Like a scene like that, seeing the parties go from what they are now to changing so drastically, but simultaneously kind of being the same. So after the onsen, we finally end up in a village that has plenty of onsens in it. Frieren is taking her good old time soaking in the onsen. She absolutely loves them. Meanwhile, Fern and Stark are in the hotel, and they kind of make note that they're kind of bored. You know, they got to stay there 2 more days because Frieren wants to. So they don't know what to do. Stark mentions that maybe you could go to a weapon shop. Frieren will be busy in the onsen, and Fern makes a comment about being bored, about, well, what will she do? Because there's not really a lot to do in the village, and apparently she doesn't really like the onsen as much as Frieren, and she doesn't like weapons like Stark, so what can she do? She gets a little pouty here, but Fern makes this comment about what will she do? Why does she have to be the one that's bored? And then she says something else. She says, pay attention to me. And I don't really know how to interpret this yet, because I don't know Fern's exact feelings towards Stark. Obviously, they care about each other, but is there more? And I've still been trying to let that simmer and kind of figure out what exactly she meant by that. And Fern is a little bit mean to Stark here, I'm not going to lie. She's a little inconsiderate towards him and stuff, so I can't lie for being a little upset. So he makes the audacious idea to invite Fern on a date, and using the specific term, date. Fern is clearly taken very aback by that. She literally just walks out. Before she finally leaves, she says, I'll see you tomorrow. So I don't think he was expecting that at all. His plan to kind of be goofy, funny, haha, backfired completely. And again, I think the second best scene in the show, Frieren with her hair up with a popsicle, looking like an absolute goober. Like I said, we get a lot of good Frieren in this episode, and I think we're a little spoiled for choice here. So she walks in on Stark, and he's outside the door trying to figure out what to do, because Fern did end up leaving her book. And she's just watching him, enjoying her popsicle with her hair tied up, however you want to call that. I wouldn't know what hairstyle to call that, but it's something, that's for sure. But this scene also popped up a lot on Twitter, and it was a great day for Twitter. So Stark ends up going to Frieren for advice, and they sit down at dinner, and he's like, hey, what do I do with this? You know, what Fern mean by this and stuff. And it's important to mention here that Stark accidentally referred to her as grandma, and we know he's done that before. He's at 2 strikes now, and it's important to reference that because for the scene coming up, Frieren mentions that you just called me a grandma again. You called me an old lady, all right? If you do it again, I'm going to throw a tantrum and I'm going to scream and cry. Obviously, it's like, okay, she's going to scream and cry, but we get what might be one of the greatest scenes in Frieren Beyond Journey's End of all time, of Frieren's temper tantrum. And I'm going to play that with sound because I think it deserves it. So this might be one of the greatest scenes in the show of all time. I remember this was blowing up on Twitter, and it still is. Every single day I've gotten on so far since this episode aired, I've seen almost nothing but Frieren crying. You know, forget the hair tie with the towel, forget the funny face and the abandoned village. Like, this is peak Frieren right here. It doesn't get any better than that. It does not get any better than that. So after the temper tantrum at dinner, he actually asks Frieren for advice. She actually gives him advice. She's kind of recommends things that Fern would like. She likes sweet things. She likes jewelry pieces and things like that. And maybe she wants a snack. She likes to snack a lot. She likes little bread. She actually gives him some decent advice here because, like, Frieren knows that their relationship is complicated. She mentioned it in the first episode. She mentioned how Stark might feel kind of awkward at times, and maybe like he feels a little bit unwanted because Fern is pretty hard on him. So she gives him some really good advice on how to make tomorrow go actually pretty well. And we get a flashback to Hyder when Fern was just a child, where he was taking care of her and Frieren was also with him at the time. And she mentions that she really didn't know all that about Fern. It was Hyder that knew all that. He really, really cared about Fern, his daughter that wasn't his daughter by blood. She was pretty much everything to him, and she took that to heart, and she made sure to take care of Fern just as well as Hyder did. So she memorized all these things about Fern and what she likes and what she doesn't like, and her snacking habits and pretty things and things like that. So she's honoring Hyder by taking care of Fern the best way she possibly can. So at the end of the episode, we get Fern and Frieren in their hotel room, and Fern decides to ask Frieren for advice. Unfortunately, it doesn't really seem like she has all that much to offer in regards to what she offered Stark earlier. She mentions that she's been on dates before with Himmel, with Hyder, with Eisen, and her definition of a date is funny. It's just 2 people of the opposite sex that go on some sort of adventure, and that's it. That's her verbatim definition of a date. So she doesn't really have much to offer Fern, and Fern probably gets a little frustrated. She ends up going to bed, and we see Fern kind of wake up in the middle of the night and just kind of vibe on the balcony. Probably think about, I don't know, she probably has a lot on her mind. You know, how's tomorrow going to go? Did she treat Stark properly? Why did Stark ask her that in the first place? You know, there's probably a lot going through her mind. So the complications are probably all there, being someone still growing up with really complicated feelings. So that's the end of episode 3. Not, like I said, not a lot happened. It was kind of more of a filler episode. We got some things here and there. I really like this episode. We always get touching moments in this show, and we also always get epic Frieren faces. And we got, I mean, the tantrum scene is one of the great. That's going to go down in history in anime, not just Frieren, but literally in anime. That's one of the greatest scenes of all time. Like, I think we can all agree on that. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for episode 4. Let me know what you thought of episode 3 and the season so far, and we'll get back to you on the next one. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe about what you think about Frieren. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.